welcome to this week's episode of NetKno, the networking show, which is all about the wonderful, magical world of networking. And this week, we're going to be talking about networking events, and more specifically, how we can go about selecting the right networking events for us, because there are so many to choose from. Literally, thousands are happening on a daily basis. That was very dramatic. But there are a lot of networking events. I spent a year in Liverpool as a full-time networker, which is a job I invented. And I used to go to like 5 or 6 every day. It was class. Didn't pay for food or wine for a very long time. But however, it is not your full-time job. You have other things to be doing. So when you are going to networking events, we want to make sure we're going to the right ones. But how do we find the right ones for you? Well, there are loads of different things to consider when it comes to selecting the right networking event for you. And the first thing I want you to think about is, what's your personality type? Big question. And when I say that, I mean in the context of, are you more of an introvert or more of an extrovert? Now, you might have an inkling, or there's loads of online tests that you can go and do, answer a few questions and it'll tell you. Spoiler alert, we're all ambiverts, okay? So we're all a mixture of the two, depending on the circumstances and whatever. We're going to be more introverted than extroverted, but we do tend to sit on more one side of the scale than the other. And what it comes down to is, well, a couple of things. It comes down to where we get our energy from and how we communicate. So when it comes to our energy, introverts get their energy from being on their own. Solitude is their friend, and they enjoy time alone, and that's where it builds their energy up. And introverts also prefer to think before they speak. So I always say when an introvert speaks, we should listen because they've thought about what they're going to say. So it's going to be really good. But it's also why we assume that introverts are shy, and that's not the case. It's just that they're thinking before they're saying it. Whereas extroverts, on the other hand, which is where I tend to sit, we tend to think as we speak. So I will start sentences and have absolutely no idea where they're going until I get there. So again, we tend to be a bit noisier. We're a bit louder and overbearing sometimes. No, I'm only kidding. We're delightful. But when it comes to our energy, we get our energy from being around a lot of people. So that really builds up our energy. So again, thinking about where you sit on the spectrum of introvert, extrovert, that's going to be a nice indicator of the type of networking events that you're going to feel more comfortable at. So if you are extroverted, the type of events that has got lots of people, you can just go and mix and mingle and chat, and it's noisy and you get to be around loads of different people. That's going to be a really enjoyable, energy-inducing experience for you. Whereas if you are introverted, that is probably going to be super energy draining. So introverts, you're probably are going to be more suited to networking events that facilitate more one-to-one conversations. So maybe speed networking, or when you're networking online, you get put into that digital space and you just have a one-to-one conversation or one-to-a-few. Networking events that have got smaller groups, or that have got introverts tend to prefer nice structured events. They know what's coming up. You know what's happening, you know the purpose of it, and you can go along. And yes, there's a mixed mingle element, but there's also that knowledge exchange, that educational piece, whatever it might be. So looking at whether or not the structure of the event's going to suit you, that's going to be a nice indicator as to, one, whether or not you're going to enjoy yourself being there, because networking should be fun. It should be enjoyable. But also, we want to make sure that we're consistent with our networking activities. It's a long game that we're playing. You're not going to go to one networking event and fulfill all of your networking objectives in one go. Pete, the producer's having a little cough. I'll let him cough it out. Cough it out, Pete. He's fine. He's had a drink of water. He's fine. Bless him. Pete's back. So, yes, the format of the event, the structure of it's going to be an indicator of whether or not you're going to get enjoyment from being there, and you want to enjoy it because you want to be consistent with your activities. We can't just go to one event, meet everyone that we need to, and then call it quits. You need to attend networking events consistently over time in order to build and nurture those relationships. So you want to find events where you feel comfortable, where you enjoy them, where you have fun, and you get whatever it is that you need personally as well as professionally. Because although you're going to have professional objectives for networking. It's you that needs to do it. You're the one that needs to go out and either get up early in the morning or, take time on an evening or take time out of your day to go to these events. So the more enjoyment you get from them, the more likely is you'll be consistent. You'll keep going because, we all find excuses not to go to networking events, especially if we're not in the mood. So reducing the risk of you cancelling, that's going to be really helpful and allow you to make sure that you are continuing to go and attend. Next, we want to look at the topic or the theme of the event itself. So I did some research as part of my PhD not so long ago and asked people out of these 11 variables, and those variables included things like time of day, location, cost, food and beverages. I thought people would care more about the food and beverages than they actually did, but I think that's maybe just me. Anyway, out of all these 11 variables, asked people which were most important when it came to making decisions of whether or not to attend an event. And the top answer was consistently the topic or theme. So the topic or the theme of the event is probably going to be the biggest deciding factor around whether or not you go. So looking at the topic or the theme of the event from your perspective, absolutely, really important. Are you going to get what you need from attending it? But what I want you to do is I also want you to think about your target market and what topic or theme they're going to be interested in. So, and what personality type your target market have. So if you want to connect with people in tech, for example, you're potentially going to have a lot of introverts who are interested in tech. So you want to look for events that have got a structure and theme and focus around the topic or theme of tech. So that might not be where you are naturally drawn to, but if you've got a specific group of people that you want to target, think about the topics they care about, think about their personality type and their structure preference. And again, look for those events and intertwine those into your strategy. Often when we find a networking event that we like, which is important, we've just talked about, that's the only type of event we'll go to. We feel comfortable there, we feel safe there. It's consistently at the same maybe location, the same people. And it's nice to have that because you get to really nurture relationships and it provides that level of safety and comfort. But we don't want to get too comfortable. It's important to experience the feeling of vulnerability in networking because we need to get comfortable feeling vulnerable. It's a vulnerable environment. That fear of social rejection is a real thing. So looking for events that are outside our comfort zone, that's going to help us to build those muscles of comfort with vulnerability. It's going to help us engage with new and different people. It's going to help us make sure that we're building those diverse networks that I've talked about previously and how important they are for accessing knowledge, information, and just sharing ideas in general. So make sure, yes, you're finding the ones that are right for you, the ones that are right for your target market, but also the ones that just challenge you a little bit. So make sure that they're intertwined in your networking strategy as well. Also think about the practicals because I've got to mention them. So stuff like time of day, my little ones just started school and the school run. I don't know how the economy functions, genuinely. School days are really short. So anything before 9:30 now is an out for me most days because, school didn't start till quarter to nine. Is it quarter to nine? I can't even remember. It's been like 2 weeks, so I am a good mum, I promise. But yeah, so practicals are really important as well. So what's going to work for you, your schedule? Maybe you've got like yoga on a Tuesday in the afternoon. Good for you if you do. Or, something that's in your diary. Make sure that the networking, again, it works for you. You don't want to resent being there and being like, oh, I don't want to be here. I should be doing my yoga or missing my kids' school play, whatever it is. Yes, compromise is important. And if it's a one-off specific thing, that's fine. Missing your yoga once every now and again is not going to kill you. But at the same time, again, that level of consistency, finding things that work for you and work for your life, work for your schedule, really important to make sure that it's not a hindrance on your life and it should just add value because that's exactly what networking is there for. So there's a bunch of different things to consider when we're looking at networking events. Don't just look at the topic and think, will I like this? We've got loads of other factors to consider. And again, thinking long term, the type of events that are going to work for you, that we've got a nice selection from the buffet of networking events. Get loads of different things on your plate. We've got some early mornings, we've got some seminars, we've got some online, we've got in person. There's loads to choose from, and we want to make sure we're sampling lots of different things to help a mixture of feeling comfortable and safe and meeting people who are like-minded, but also pushing us for personal and professional development, meeting more diverse groups of people, and just having that nice selection of different networks. So hope you found that useful. If you have, please share it with your wider network, add value to them, might help them. Make sure, of course, that you subscribe, like and share the video or the podcast. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next week.
A Liquid Studios production.